Hello everyone, greetings, salutations, welcome, willkommen, bienvenue. This is Verde Broadcasting. Welcome back to Pitches Leave, the show in which we pitch either an alternate or a film or a sequel or a film about poo.
Don't know what to talk about, mate.
Yeah, no, that may or may not have happened before this. On my left is Richard Jackson, co-host and host,
human man,
general human man.
General human man.
He holds the rank of general and is a human man. I am Duncan Casey, of course, and today it's my turn to pitch something to Richard. In my usual flurry of not knowing what the hell to do and not being in any way as organised as Richard's spreadsheet Jackson.
Spreadsheet Nazi.
That's just my way of belittling him so that I feel somewhat better for not being very organised at all.
Google Drive, spreadsheet.
I have come up with what I thought I would pitch a sequel to. I think someone's actually suggested this before, so if you have coods, I don't know, I can't remember who did it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But here is my idea for, or the machinations of my idea for a sequel to The Dark Knight Rises. I know we have done Batman on this before, but this is obviously a very different Batman, a very different universe. And it sort of ties into what they did do, which is to basically, so here's what I thought might work, is to have, and it also goes into establishing a big universe and all that kind of thing, is to have essentially Man of Steel, have, say, the first hour of Man of Steel, the first basically getting to the point where he is he's learned that all his powers, he's learned who he is, whether it's through the way that Man of Steel does it, or whether it's through more of a kind of Dick Donner version where it's just explained by Marlon Brando, Crystal. However, which way it goes, but basically he's Superman, and then the last thing you sort of see of that being a mashed up Act 1, I guess, of a 3-part or maybe 4-act structure. Is that he's off to Metropolis. So we sort of go first hour of Man of Steel, last 5 minutes of Man of Steel. Like he's now Clark Kent. We have to get him to the point of being Clark Kent at the Daily Planet. Then we go back to we hear about Gotham in bits and bobs throughout that, but basically then we get to Gotham, and Gotham is as it was at the end of, or more or less as it was at the end of Dark Knight Rises. It's repairing, but it is still very much like people are displaced, the bridges are down. It's
continuing the kind of no man's land stuff they took into Dark Knight Rises.
Because it's all well and good that he got the bomb out of there, but it's
still fucked, isn't it? There's dead cops everywhere.
Exactly. The class structure's gone. The cops are totally decimated because some madman trapped them underground for a long time. So it's like you almost got factions of cops here and there. It could actually be more like No Man's Land than Dark Knight Rises was, because I think Dark Knight Rises missed a trick in sort of getting. I mean, again, when you kill off Two-Face, which I always said was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
He could have really been a big player in all that and having a gang and everything. And of course, obviously, we lost Heath Ledger.
Because they half-assedly brought back Crane.
Yeah, but it didn't really.
Death by Umbongo.
Yeah. So that's the Gotham we're kind of in, and then you've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Robin Blake as Batman, trying to deal with all of the discord and the uprisings and stuff that are going on in the city. That there's a real push from organised crime again to try and come back in and capitalise on what's been going on. So he's there trying to take that, but he's getting increasingly frustrated because he's not Bruce Wayne. He doesn't have the sort of superhuman intellect of Bruce Wayne, and he doesn't have the resources. Like, he's got the cave, but it's sitting underneath a
boys' home. Yeah, I was thinking that earlier.
Exactly. And Alfred's sort of, taking his...
Well, he's off in fucking Italy, sitting around in a cafe.
Drinking 30 Branca by the Banks of the Arno. Waiting for Boston Wayne to come back. So he's fucking... You fucking little prick. I love that, mate. That's my favourite bits of Kingsman, when he's like, actually, he's got this sort of thing. And then when he realises he's poisoned, he goes, you fucking little prick.
Yeah, he goes.
So good.
It's just like Dan Elliott in Trading Places.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Hello, Harry.
It's so good. But anyway, so he's sort of all alone. He feels like he's been handed the mantle without any kind of, it's like a backpack with a searchlight, a climbing rope, and an instruction.
Just like, it gives him the keys to like this
the cat.
insane. Yeah, right. So, I guess I'm Batman now.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he sort of feels like he gave up his whole life effectively to go and do that. He's felt out of place. He thought this is what we've done, but increasingly he's getting frustrated. He's trying to take on the mobs and all this stuff going on. So he realizes at this point that he's kind of outgunned and just not fit for the job. Then I think a la the graphic novel of Man of Steel,
as in the John Byrne.
The John Byrne one. Superman needs to reveal himself to the world. Now that whole subplot that's in Man of Steel about, his dad not being sure, there's that whole insecurity around will the world accept you, won't the world? I think that remains. I would take out a lot of the cut flashbacks to Smallville, though, that are in Man of Steel, because I think that happens one too many times. And we need to skip along a bit.
We all know what IHOP is now.
Yes, we do. And that Pete Ross works there. But yes. So we get, but that is something that's still going on. And I think rather than having the Zod attack being because I just think in Man of Steel, like, it's not a reveal to the world. It's a reveal to a Nevada-based army base, and then he goes into space. But in the first the world really sees of him is sort of being thrown through buildings and.
Well, they make great pains to show him as just being like a dot or a smear.
Yeah,
and it's like a little thing zipping through the sky. It's never kind of like da 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 da.
Yeah. And then of course the only time you get that image of him floating in the sky is when he's sort of ominously looking at someone in a flood on the roof. Batman vs Superman. So it doesn't really. Anyway, but so I would have the sort of. It's a bit cliche, but have the kind of plane crash thing that he leaps out of the crowd because he's there as Clark Kent covering the special space whatever landing.
Right,
blah, 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 and
so pretty much, because the Man of Steel did use bits from John Byrne's Man of Steel.
Yes.
Which ones necessary is a bit rare. Like the Kryptonians look like Time Lords and stuff.
Okay.
But the shuttle scene from Man of Steel, the book, just to clarify.
Yes, yeah. So he saves that. Whether or not he does it in costume or not. Because I know in the book he doesn't. He's just this unknown figure comes out and does it. Doesn't matter really. That's a detail. But so he does that. But that's then the world is aware of the Superman effectively at that point, and Batman, Joe GJ, or whatever is Joe JG, JGL. His Batman. He's at that lowest ever when that happens, and it shows him up as being this he just feels like it just. Shows him as being this utterly lacking, incompetent, can't get his shit together, and now there's this guy just plucking things out of the sky and who can solve all the problems. So, and Metropolis is therefore this big shining city of wonderment, and his besieged shithole. Yeah. So he's like, right, that's fucking it. I am stopping this dead. So he starts killing fuckers, whether it's with guns or knives or whatever. He basically goes down the Azrael path.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that look, this is supposedly Robin.
Well, it's not Dick Grayson.
No.
So I think you get licensed because they so half-assed that introduction to that character, and the fact, like I said before, the fact he's called Robin Robinson or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it. No, he's not called Robin. It's not like Batman's not called Ian Batman. That'd be fucking stupid. So
the Batman show.
They definitely tried to do because Dick Grayson was a cop, a beat cop in Bloodhaven. Right.
Okay.
So John Blake being a kind of beat cop at first before he becomes a detective is kind of like Dick Grayson Nightwing stuff.
Okay.
And I think the setup for him as Batman, they were kind of vaguely hinting at a fucking Nightwing-esque thing.
Right.
Except he's not Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
He's Robin J. Robinson, Q Vigilante. So do what the fuck you like with him as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well that's what I mean, again, we're talking a kind of mashup of stories and ideas here. So that's kind of where I get to with him. So he's doing all that. Superman hears of it, obviously, or Clark Kent hears of it. Is worried about Gotham, is worried about the example set by Batman, who he's heard of but never met.
And presumably the general public think JGL Batman is
the Batman.
Because he's acting as Batman. He's not as a new name or anything. He's just put on the costume and he's going around.
I'd love for the costume, though, to be kind of knackered and beat up.
He doesn't know how to maintain it.
No, yeah. He hasn't got the resources of...
He doesn't have the Alfred, he doesn't have the knowledge.
Well, he doesn't, and he doesn't have Lucius Fox or any of that shit. So
right,
it's his shit doesn't get replenished.
It's covered in duct tape or whatever.
Yeah, it's properly beat up and, he doesn't... I don't know, maybe the ears fell off the cowl or so. I don't know, but he doesn't have the kind of... and he's had to come up and botch it and blah, blah, blah. So he's probably got extra bits of armour on and that kind of thing. Yeah, so Superman rocks up to basically have it out with him about like, look, it introduces that tussle for Superman about, do I interfere with humans, do I lead by example, or do I try and stop what is clearly a vigilante?
I mean, it is the as people who do not like Batman versus Superman, that is the key conflict in Batman vs Superman. And I know people would like to go like, you're hypocrites because they did that. And that's one element of Batman vs Superman that comes from many, many comics, so I'm fine with that as a thing.
Yeah, but the proper version of it. Because this does happen in the Man of Steel graphic novel as well, is that they come to blows over that. And but it's Bruce Wayne rather than, obviously, this one. But it's about what... in this instance, because it is essentially a Superman origin movie, and I realise that that's not necessarily what you'd want from a Dark Knight sequel, but, going where we were going...
The thing is, as well, if you're keeping it in that continuity, it's kind of like, well, you've already had 3 straight-up Batman films, so it's okay to dilute... The problem is when you don't see the character you want to see in the first or second film, but this is 4 films deep, so I think that's all right.
I think it's okay. Yeah. So you've got... that conflict, which sets up the whole thing in Superman about interference and what he should be, where his sort of jurisdiction ends and all that kind of thing. And then you've got the kind of Azrael fucking, he's killing fuckers. So then, obviously, of course, Bruce Wayne hears about this, realises this is not, the game has changed now that there's a Superman around and this guy is not towing the line as Batman. I don't know what his plan for him really was, but I mean, hey... Well,
it's like you say, it's just like tossed him the keys, then fucking off to get blown by Selena Kyle.
Yeah.
That's the whole,
Yeah, she's totally trustworthy. So anyway, he comes back, and there's a sort of fight of the Batmans, I suppose.
Well, that's what Batman does, because you've kind of repurposed Robin J. Robinson into kind of Azrael-esque character.
Yeah.
And when John Paul Valley first goes out as Batman, he just wears the Batman costume, but then he wears the crazy mecha Batman thing, and then Bruce Wayne Batman, once he's walked off his broken back, as he did in Dark Knight Rises, he comes back, and so you're kind of doing that.
Yeah.
Because like we said before, these things don't directly adapt things, they take key moments and, reconfigure them.
But take what I'm keen to do is take the things that are, the character-driven things, not like Batman vs Superman did, which is basically just take the imagery and not really give it any substance. Like I want this to be about Superman. It's easier, it's a better way for Superman to learn, his whole don't interfere, don't kill, don't blah 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 blah. It's better for him to learn that and what humanity really is and how he can lead by example by meeting one person who's totally, been on the side of good and then corrupted by a system, who's allowed this whole thing to drag him down. And it's like, that's a really important thing for Superman to learn. It's like, it's impossible for him to, short of killing him, which he can't, it's impossible for him to, how can he get this guy to turn around and be good again? And then you've got Bruce Wayne showing up, who's, at first at odds, I suppose, with Superman's methodology, but then when they work together, they have to, it's a way of them having to bring down Azrael, essentially. And it's not just as easy as Superman just runs up and picks him up and stops him from doing it. It's like he can't, he's trying to hold back and he's trying not to...
because he could just punch his head off, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got that. Now that's perhaps Act 2. I mean, I know it, because the beauty of then piggybacking off The Dark Knight Rises is the fact that you don't have to set up Gotham. You don't have to go, I'm Commissioner Gordon, and all this sort of stuff. You can just literally have it as was. Everyone knows the score with it. It's probably about, I don't know, what would you say, 40 minutes of screen time? Maybe an hour, I don't know. But so, because you're talking about, what, a 2.5-hour runtime probably. I mean, bearing in mind Dark Knight Rises was 2 hours 45 minutes or something, so it's like you've got license to go that long, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the tone of that series, I guess.
Yeah, so then it's about, like, what do you have at the end? Do you then bookend it with what actually happens in Man of Steel, which is Zod comes back? I think you could do that in a much not truncated way, but I think you could have Zod, the final thing is that Zod turns up, and I suppose as well, like, what this is also about is getting Superman to really be an adopted son of Earth. So you've got, his relationship with Batman could form part of that. When I say Batman, I mean Bruce Wayne, not obviously Robin Robinson. And then look, I don't know that they team up to fight Zod at the end, because obviously how could they necessarily?
Batman doesn't really have much skin in that game. Eh?
No, but.
I suppose you could have the thing of, like, I know they teamed up to stop Robin J. Robinson, but you could have kind of not making it too messy, but a parallel thing of Batman trying to clean up the shit in Gotham, and then
all right. There's something on Earth that has to be like a satellite dish that needs to be sorted.
There needs to be some. I think it needs to be spectacular in that, because the thing about Superman Returns is there was no real spectacle in it in the third act, and I think that's a legitimate complaint to address.
Batman has to do something to do with the Phantom Zone that, on Earth he has to commandeer some tech to
Batman gets drawn into the wacky world of Superman to some degree.
Yeah, he has to. There's some button he has to press on Earth just at the same time as Superman throws something into it. You know what I mean? Like he
has to use his wiles.
Yeah,
Superman can punch through a moon, but Batman's got brain smarts and technology and stuff.
There's a scenario that means they both have to do something at the same time that means they save the Earth. I don't know, but these things aren't necessarily important. But it's about him also learning as well. That it's interesting for him to learn certain things about hope and what it means to be a human symbol through Batman. I don't see why he can't. I mean, that is a thing that obviously he learns anyway through Jor-El, but I think that it can be affirmed by, and he can be given the kind of tools as to how to be a beacon, because that's what frustrates me. It's like Batman is, by the end of The Dark Knight Rises, he's a symbol of hope. And so we talk about Superman's S being a symbol of hope. Why not have the two kind of feed off each other? And even though they have a different methodology, I don't know where we end up with Batman at the end of this. I guess he's gone back to being Batman, and somehow I don't know how you undo the fucking boys' school of Wayne Manor and all that shit.
I think that's just something that is what it is. Because it doesn't look. Well, I suppose he's Bruce Wayne. He could just relocate the boys or something to somewhere else. But I quite like the idea of Bruce Wayne kicking a load of kids out of a boys' school. It's I want my house back.
Bearing in mind that Wayne Manor was rebuilt and he lived in a penthouse for a while, so I'm sure there's a way of
he's resourceful. He managed to walk back from India.
yeah, exactly. I remember that was just outside of Gotham, didn't you?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Just fucking Gotham and
Palisade,
Metropolis are right next to each other.
Yeah. I would certainly do away with that idea. But yeah, so that and that tees up what could then go on to be Justice League stuff. But it has firmer roots, I think. And this idea that I know a lot of people will say, well, but the Nolanverse was more grounded in reality, and how could you have Superman in it? But I just genuinely think by the time we got to the end of Dark Knight Rises, when you've got Bane, this superhumanly strong guy, because of painkillers or whatever. You've got Talia al Ghul. You've got a fucking apparition revealing plot points. And all right, it's in his head, but still. And you're dealing with a big nuclear bomb that's made from a fission reactor that he's got to get out of town, and he's flying around. I just think by the time you get to that level, it's so far away from what Batman Begins was that why not? The next step is, and you still do the Nolan thing that they did with Man of Steel, which is to have it, Superman is obviously not real, but the world he enters is sort of real, and you can still do that. But yeah, I don't know. That's bit of loose.
That's your theoretical takeoff of leading Man of Steel. Yeah, the Nolan films into the
and knowing kind of what I know about, and what we all know really about how studio systems work and everything. It's like that there's always Superman Returns was a mash-up of certain scripts. This would be a mash-up of. And Man of Steel was a mashup of whatever it was. There was was it J.B. Abrams? Flyby, and there was McGee's whatever, and those were, there were elements taken out of scripts and put together.
Yeah. And if you watch the late John Schnapp's Death of Superman Lives, they reference quite a lot. Seemed quite determined to make Superman as weird and obtuse as possible.
Yeah.
There was loads of but this Superman has bananas for eyes. Or whatever. And fucking, Lex Luthor's a shoe. And whatever. It's just strange change for change's sake type shit. Which was powerfully odd.
Yeah.
Over the years. So, I get that. And, I've said before, I think they should have built the DC universe on the failed Green Lantern film and just stuck to their guns and sucked it up,
right? And
maybe put Hal Jordan to the back for a bit. But I know for a fact Warner Brothers would have done anything they could have to do what you've just described.
Yeah.
They would have done anything to trade off the goodwill of the kind of Dark Knight series, and they would have taken all of the money to Christian Bale and to Christopher Nolan to come back. So I think he would have made them very happy.
Chris Nolan effectively did come. I mean, he was a credited producer on.
I'm very dubious of how much he actually did, because I got really annoyed at the time people going it's got all of Christopher Nolan's trademarks, and it's no, it doesn't.
He did have
it's
some
a superhero origin film.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it's otherwise like a Christopher Nolan film. In that it's kind of like that one superhero origin film he did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Apart from the sort of any reference to realism will be credited to him, I'm sure. But I mean, I do think as time has gone on, like Man of Steel has become a bit of an island, and it does feel very much different to the other films that came after it. But I think you deal with that World's Finest / Batman v Superman thing in the appropriate way, and they learn from each other, and they become, you've then got Batman sort of 2.0 effectively, and Bruce Wayne coming back as Batman, and in a post-Superman world.
Like it's a positivity thing with those two, isn't it? And it's how they change each other, and become super best friends. But it's how they change each other through their different methods and stuff. Whereas the Batman versus Superman we got, well, firstly it called it Batman versus Superman, which we all know is bollocks, because it's always only ever going to be they versus for a bit and then team up.
Yeah, it wasn't the ideological version of that. It was the fucking.
It needs it needs to be a bit more positive. Whereas like any positivity in Batman vs Superman comes after. I'm not going to it's very tired and trite to make Martha scene jokes, but it comes after that point. Yeah, like you have the Martha scene, then it's kind of like, oh, we're friends now, and then they're friends for 5 minutes, and Superman gets impaled.
Which doesn't make any sense. Someone actually pointed out to me that the right before the Martha bit, he says, I bet your parents told you that you mean something or whatever. And it's like, right, so Batman's assuming he has parents. So the whole point of him going, you're killing Martha, and it's like, a lot of people give that leeway because they're like, oh, he realizes he has a mother and therefore he's like him and blah, blah, blah. It's not just because they have mothers of the same name. It has to be because he said, I bet your parents told you mean something. It's like...
And it's weird in Congress has been said often before, because who calls their mum by their first name? I know a lot of people do, but there's no proof that Clark Kent ever does.
No, and he said he calls her mum a lot, like he does in Man of Steel.
And to be fair, it would have been... God, I don't really
so you dare to threaten my mother?
Yeah.
Wouldn't he say, you dare to threaten my Martha?
That would be amazing. And it would tee up the scene in the next one.
Yeah. Just George Lucas that, go back.
Double down on the nonsensical nonsense. No, I like it. I think it's very much in the spirit of what is done. And like I said on the Dread thing, like, the idea is, and it's what Marvel do as well, is that you don't necessarily straight adapt things. You take elements that work. Yeah. Because these don't... Because something like Watchmen and other stuff, or say like even Kick-Ass or whatever, they come from finite works, so there's a bit less leeway to just fuck around. Whereas these are kind of endlessly reconfigured, ongoing stories, so you can sort of afford to just take the key beats, and as long as you keep the characters intact, you're all right. Yeah. And I view it like that, because you've got your all the kind of it is a continuation of the Nightfall stuff that's in Dark Knight Rises with Batman's broken back and stuff. Yeah. But you've used that as a launchpad to go into basically do Azrael without really doing Azrael, and then you can fuck around with the fake Robin because he's not Robin. So I have no problem with you messing around with that either. And put in a world-ending threat at the end, and jobs are good, and home in time for tea. Yeah, super tea.
I mean, there's scope obviously to get Zod out of that, and for that not to be Zod. I mean, but I just think at the end of the day, does it matter?
Yeah. I think the thing is, you really do, when you're at Superman stuff, it needs to be like this big spectacular threat, which there's been. They did that in Man of Steel, absolutely, of course they did. But they made it horrible and dour and sort of 9/11-y, which was no fun for anyone. Whereas what I'm really talking about is like Metallo or a giant Brainiac skull ship floating over Metropolis or something like that. Yeah. What I don't want is people screaming and trapped under rubble like real life, because that's not why I'm watching a Superman film. Yeah. To be honest. So that kind of works for me on that level.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it bookends the film as well, because you've got the kind of the Krypton thing, and then you've watched Superman like go through his various stages of really becoming an adopted child of Earth. And I think as well, like it supercharges the Batman-Superman relationship, because the thing is, in the film world, you don't get the luxury of being able to develop that over several episodes. You just don't, because actors get old, schedules get difficult. You know what I mean? You just don't get that time. You've probably got however many films to do that in. So, and bearing in mind, Christian Bale's probably at this point going, I want to get out of here, you fucking prick. So, it's got to be fairly turbocharged in terms of like, so what I mean by that is, it's like he has to learn from Superman has to learn from him, and if it's made as part of Superman's kind of upbringing and learning to be more human than human, and that the methodology of Bruce Wayne about I just think that like that infusion is really a big part of what makes Superman. And then going forward off the back of that, if you're going to go down the Justice League route and all that kind of thing, there's that bond between them, that unspoken bond effectively, that means that even though they then probably rub each other up the wrong way as they go forward, there's always that underlying respect and understanding. So I think that is a really good way of doing that. And then, whatever happens with Zod, like I say, it can be freaking anything. It's MacGuffin town.
You get to have your cake and eat it in a small way as well, because they're set up in Batman vs Superman. It's like Superman comes to Gotham because Batman's a horrible monster. But in your film, Superman comes to Gotham because Batman's a horrible monster, except it's not Batman.
Exactly.
And then you get to kind of turn it on a dime. So instead of Batman running around branding paedophiles and having them shanked in the prison shower with a sharpened toothbrush, you can sort of go like, well, that's not really Batman.
Well, and that's just something to Superman as well about, like, when he turns up, it's the brand of Batman that's the problem. It's the symbol that he's coming to confront, and then he realizes, obviously through meeting Bruce Wayne and all that, like that symbol's been corrupted, and it's the corruption of symbol, and that. I think it gives him this idea as well that it's just, I have to be more human than human with all my powers and all of this shit. If anyone ever sees me as anything other than exact, like solid, well, I am, and that's there you are. There's the Man of Steel subtext. He's the Man of Steel. It doesn't mean literally steel. It means like I have to be stoic and steel-like in my resolve, because I can't ever be. If someone sees a chink in my armor, effectively. Not racist. I know that's what you're thinking. If someone sees a gap or whatever, like a something to exploit, then I am, if I can be exploited in any way, then I'm a very dangerous, whether knowingly or not. But so I have to remember.
And that's a big thing in Superman-Batman's relationship as well. It's like, what is it, Tower of Babel, when Batman's got a way to take down everyone in the Justice League, and there is a discussion, I think, somewhere where Superman it might have been an animated series or something, where he gives Batman kryptonite and goes like, look, you were right to have this, so I could go batshit and someone has to stop me one day. Yeah. Probably didn't say batshit, that'd be quite insulting to a Batman. I'm a Batman. Dare you?
Oh, it's quite offensive. So that's, that, I don't know, make of that what you will. I guess it's fill in the blanks as far as details of what goes on, but I think as far as character-driven piece that piggybacks off the back of that, I know there's all sorts of shit that would never have worked out because of Christian Bale and all that kind of thing. But
oh god, this would never ever get made.
No,
I'm sure it's what Warner Brothers wanted to get made.
The frustrating thing is you've then got to pay Christian Bale, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, probably like Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine. It just starts to get ridiculous, and you're asking Christian Bale effectively to turn up for half an hour. It's never going to work. But just in terms of the idealistic sort of what if, which is what this show is all about, I think that would have satisfied me, I think, as a story for those characters, more so than perhaps what we got.
I'll take it. I give it 7 kryptonite batarangs out of 6 Morgan Freeman freckles. The top rating.
Yeah, the top rating.
Strange nebulous metric that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this week. We really, really hope you had fun and enjoyed this. Please, if you have any ideas of your own or suggestions, put them in the comments down below. We'd love to read those. And please, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Double thumbs down if you didn't, and please check out our Patreon, which is in the description below, and also our merchandise store at Redbubble, which will be on there as well. We really appreciate any engagement, anything you want to throw our way is very gratefully received. And thank you very much, and we'll see you next time for another Pitchers Leave. Till then, goodbye.
Laters, bruv, innit? Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Valverde shop.